A single father, a 6-year-old girl with a heart too big for this world, and a broken woman on a bench clutching the last photograph of someone she'd lost forever. What happened next on that ordinary Saturday morning at a Seattle bus stop would change 3 lives in ways none of them saw coming. The bus stop on Haven Row wasn't crowded that Saturday morning. Just one person sat on the weathered bench, a young black woman with natural curls pulled into a messy bun, wearing worn clothes that looked like they'd been slept in. She was crying. Not the loud, attention-seeking kind of crying, but the silent kind that comes from somewhere so deep that words can't reach it anymore. Tears streamed down her brown cheeks as she clutched a crumpled photograph in her trembling hands, staring at it like it was the only thing keeping her tethered to this world. Kalen Dray noticed her immediately. His first instinct was protective, not of the woman, but of his daughter. Imani's small hand was warm in his calloused palm as they walked to Northmere Grove Market, their Saturday morning ritual. At 6 years old, Imani had a tendency to notice things most adults trained themselves to ignore, and Kalen knew his daughter well enough to know that she'd already seen the crying woman. "Daddy," Imani whispered, tugging on his hand. Her brown eyes, so much like her mother's, looked up at him with concern that seemed too heavy for such a small face. "That lady is really sad." Kalen gently tried to steer them to the other side of the sidewalk. "I know, baby, but sometimes people need space when they're upset." They were almost past the bus stop when Imani stopped walking entirely. She let go of his hand. "Imani," Kalen started, but his daughter was already moving toward the bench with that determined walk she got when she'd made up her mind about something. The woman looked up, startled, as a small girl in a peach jacket appeared in front of her. Her first instinct was to wipe her tears, embarrassed to be seen so vulnerable by a child. Imani stood there for a moment, studying the woman with the kind of directness only children possess. Then she spoke, her voice clear and gentle. "I think you need a hug. Can I hug you?" Her little arms were already opening. The woman's face crumpled. Fresh tears spilled over, but something in them had changed. She nodded, unable to form words, and the little girl wrapped her arms around her as far as they would go. Kalen stood frozen a few feet away, his throat suddenly tight. He watched his daughter hold this stranger with the same fierce tenderness she showed him when he came home exhausted from construction sites. "It's okay," Imani said softly, patting the woman's back. "My daddy says crying helps the sad come out so happy can come back in." The woman let out a sound somewhere between a laugh and a sob. She gently hugged the child back, her shoulders shaking. For the first time in what might have been days or weeks, someone was touching her with kindness instead of suspicion. Kalen approached slowly, every protective instinct on high alert. But something in the moment felt genuine, sacred even. "I'm sorry," the woman said, her voice raw as she pulled back from Imani. "I'm not usually—" "No apologies needed," Kalen said quietly, sitting down on the bench. He kept Imani between them, a father's caution still present. "I'm Kalen. This is my daughter, Imani." "Saira," she managed, her voice barely above a whisper. "That's a pretty name," Imani said. "Why are you so sad?" "Imani, that's personal," Kalen started, but Saira shook her head. "It's okay." She looked down at the photograph in her hand, then held it out so Imani could see. It showed 2 black women at a Christmas dinner table, laughing, their faces bright with joy. One was clearly a younger version of Saira. The other was older with silver-streaked hair and a warm smile. "Is that your mommy?" Imani asked. Saira nodded, her jaw tight as she fought back another wave of tears. "Yeah, she died 8 months ago, pancreatic cancer. It happened so fast we didn't even have time to say all the things we needed to say." She touched the photograph gently. Today would have been her 54th birthday. The words hung in the air between them. Kalen felt something crack open in his chest. that specific kind of recognition that only comes from shared loss. "I'm sorry," he said, and the way he said it made Saira look at him more closely. There was understanding in his voice, not pity. "You get it," she said. Not a question, a statement. Kalen nodded slowly. 3 years now. Some days are easier than others. "My mommy went to heaven too," Imani said softly. "Daddy says she's watching us from the stars." Saira's eyes filled again, but she managed a sad smile. "What was your mommy like?" "Daddy says she was really good at making pancakes, and she always sang when she was happy. Daddy says I got her eyes." Kalen put his hand on his daughter's shoulder, steadying himself as much as her. "You did get her eyes, baby." He looked at Saira. Really looked at her. Beneath the worn clothes and exhaustion, he could see someone who'd once had a different life. There was education in the way she spoke, careful articulation even through the tears. "Do you have somewhere to stay?" he asked gently. Saira's jaw tightened. Pride warred with honesty in her expression. "Different places. The shelter when there's room." "What about food?" She didn't answer, which was answer enough. "Daddy, she's hungry," Imani said, looking up at her father with those big, knowing eyes. "I know, baby." Kalen made a decision. "Saira, we're heading to the market. Would you join us? My treat. Imani never lets me pick the right apples anyway." Saira hesitated, every survival instinct she'd developed over the past months screaming at her to be careful. But there was something about this man and his daughter that felt safe. "I don't want to be a burden," she said quietly. "Please," Imani said, still holding her hand. "You can teach me how to pick the good apples. Daddy always gets the mushy ones." Despite everything, Saira laughed, a real laugh that surprised even her. "Okay, I guess I'm an apple expert now." They walked the 3 blocks to Northmere Grove Market together, an unlikely trio. Imani positioned herself between Kalen and Saira, holding both their hands, chattering about everything and nothing. As they walked, Kalen found himself studying Saira's profile when she wasn't looking. She couldn't be more than 28, maybe 30. Too young to have experienced the kind of loss that aged your eyes the way hers were aged. "How long since you ate something warm?" he asked quietly, while Imani was distracted by a street musician. Saira's step faltered slightly. "Tuesday, I think. Maybe Monday. The days kind of blur together." She said it matter-of-factly, without self-pity, just stating the reality of her world. Kalen felt anger rise in his chest, not at her, but at the series of circumstances that had led someone educated and capable to sleeping on streets. "What did you do before?" he asked. "Before I was homeless?" Saira finished for him without bitterness. "I worked at the Alderhouse bookshop, did inventory, customer service, ran the children's Saturday reading program. I have a degree in library science from University of Washington." "What happened?" Saira was quiet for a moment. "My mom got sick. Pancreatic cancer doesn't mess around. I took time off to take care of her. Used my sick days, then my vacation days, then started missing shifts because she needed round-the-clock care those last few weeks." She swallowed hard. "I got let go 3 weeks before she died. Lost the apartment 2 months after that. Couldn't afford it on unemployment, and medical bills had taken everything we had." Kalen knew that spiral. If not for his union construction job with health insurance, if not for his brother Taryn helping with childcare when Lyra died, he could have easily ended up in the same place. "I'm sorry," he said. "That's not fair." "Life rarely is," Saira said with a slight shrug. "But it's strange. 8 months of barely surviving, and today, on what should be the hardest day, your daughter hugged me, and now I'm walking to a market like a normal person." "You are a normal person," Kalen said firmly. Before Saira could respond, Imani ran back to them, grabbing both their hands. "We're here. Come on. They have the good donut stand." The farmer's market was alive with Saturday morning energy. The smell of coffee and fresh pastries filled the air. Kalen watched Saira's face as they entered. For a moment, something like longing crossed her features. A memory of a different life when coming to places like this was normal. "Apples stand first," Imani announced, pulling them toward a booth overflowing with different varieties. "Saira, you have to show me the good ones." At the apple stand, something shifted. Saira came alive in a way Kalen hadn't seen yet. She picked up an apple, examined it carefully, then handed it to Imani. "See how it's firm when you press it gently? No soft spots. And look at the color. This variety should have a deep red with these yellow undertones. That means it got enough sun." She held it up to Imani's nose. "Smell the stem end. Smells fresh, right?" Imani inhaled deeply and nodded, completely captivated. "That's a good apple," Saira declared. They went through the process with a dozen apples, Saira teaching, Imani learning, Kalen watching, with something warm spreading through his chest. "How do you know all this?" Kalen asked. "My mom and I used to come to farmers' markets every Saturday. She grew up on a farm in eastern Washington before she moved to Seattle for nursing school. She taught me everything about picking produce." Her eyes went distant. "I haven't been to a market since she died. Couldn't afford it." "Daddy, can we get donuts?" Imani pointed at a stand where fresh donuts were being made. "Of course, baby." As they walked toward the donut stand, Saira started to hang back, and Kalen noticed. "You're getting a donut too," he said gently but firmly. "Kalen, I can't. When's the last time you had something warm and sweet?" She didn't answer. "That's what I thought." He ordered 3 donuts, handing one to Saira along with a hot coffee. No arguments. Saira took the donut with shaking hands. When she bit into it, Kalen saw her eyes close. The expression on her face was almost painful to watch. Gratitude mixed with grief, mixed with the simple pleasure of warm food. They sat on a bench while Imani watched a juggler perform. An idea had been forming in Kalen's mind for the past hour. It was probably crazy, definitely impulsive, but something about this woman and her story, something about the way his daughter had immediately connected with her. It all added up to a decision that felt both reckless and right. "Saira," he said carefully, "I want to ask you something, and I need you to really think about it before you answer." She looked at him warily. "Okay. I have a garage apartment. It's a studio above our detached garage in the backyard. The last tenant moved out 6 months ago, and I haven't had time to list it again." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "It needs some cleaning, maybe some paint, but it has heat, running water, a small kitchen. It's not much, but it's weatherproof and warm." Saira's eyes widened. "Kalen, I can't pay rent. I don't have—" "I'm not asking for rent," Kalen interrupted. "I'm asking for help." "I don't understand." Kalen looked over at Imani, who was laughing at the juggler. "I work construction. Long hours, early starts. Imani is in after-school care until 6 most days, and she hates it. The woman who runs it is nice enough, but it's just TV and snacks in a church basement." He turned back to Saira. "I come home exhausted. Most nights I'm too tired to do anything but heat up chicken nuggets and pass out during bedtime stories. Imani deserves better. She deserves someone who can pick her up from school, help with her homework, maybe make sure she eats a vegetable once in a while." "You want me to be a nanny?" "I want a trade," Kalen corrected. "Room and board in exchange for childcare and some light housework. You'd have your own space, your own life, but you'd be there for Imani when I can't be. You said you ran a children's reading program. You know how to connect with kids. Imani already trusts you, which is rare since her mom died." Saira was silent, her mind clearly racing. "I know this is forward. I know you don't know us and we don't really know you. But I'm a good judge of character, and so is my daughter. And right now, I think we could help each other." "Why would you do this?" Saira asked, her voice thick with emotion. "You don't even know me." I know you're educated. I know you're grieving someone you love deeply. I know you're capable, the way you taught Imani about apples, the patience you showed with her questions. I know my 6-year-old daughter, who has better instincts about people than most adults I've met, wanted to hug you. He met her eyes. And I know what it's like to need someone to throw you a lifeline when you're drowning. Tears were streaming down Saira's face again, but these were different from the ones at the bus stop. I don't know what to say, she whispered. Say you'll think about it. The offer stands. No pressure. Fair trade? Saira said. That's what you're calling this? What would you call it? She looked at him for a long moment. I'd call it the kindest thing anyone has done for me in a very long time. Imani ran back over, powdered sugar coating her nose. The juggler was so cool. She looked between her father and Saira, her 6-year-old intuition picking up on the emotional weight in the air. Is Saira okay? Yeah, sweetheart. She's okay. Imani wrapped her arms around Saira's waist. I'm glad we found you today. Saira hugged her back, closing her eyes. Over Imani's head, she looked at Kalen. Could I have some time to think about your offer? Of course. Take all the time you need. I don't have a phone, Saira admitted quietly. Kalen pulled out his phone and a receipt from his pocket, writing down his number. Rose Bay Public Library opens at 10 tomorrow. Imani and I go to Sunday story time there at 10:30 every week. If you want to talk more, find us there. Saira took the receipt, folding it carefully like it was precious. Rose Bay Library, 10:30. No pressure, Kalen emphasized. If you decide it's not for you, no hard feelings. As they prepared to part ways, Imani tugged on Saira's coat. You'll come tomorrow, right? To the library? Saira knelt down to Imani's level, really looking at this small girl who had somehow changed the entire trajectory of her day with one simple hug. You know what? Yes, I'll be there. Promise? Imani held out her pinky. Saira linked her pinky with the child's, feeling the simple trust in that gesture like a weight and a gift. I promise. That night, as Kalen tucked Imani into bed, she looked up at him with serious eyes. Daddy, why did you invite Saira to live with us? Kalen sat on the edge of her bed, thinking carefully. His daughter was young, but she was smart. She deserved honesty. Remember last month when you had that bad dream, and you said hugging Mr. Bunny made you feel safer? Imani nodded, clutching the worn stuffed rabbit. Sometimes grown-ups need that too. Not the stuffed animal part, but people to remind them they're not alone in the scary stuff. Saira lost her mommy and she doesn't have anybody to help her feel safe right now. Like how Uncle Taryn and Aunt Jennifer helped us when Mommy died? Kalen felt his throat tighten. Exactly like that, baby. Are we paying it forward? Yeah, sweetheart. We're paying it forward. Imani was quiet for a moment. I think Mommy would like Saira. Why is that? Because Mommy always said the best way to heal your own hurt is to help heal someone else's. Remember? Kalen did remember. Lyra had said those exact words 3 months before she herself would die unexpectedly during what should have been routine surgery. He kissed Imani's forehead. You're absolutely right, baby. Mommy would like Saira very much. Sunday morning, Kalen was nervous. At 10:27, he and Imani walked into Rose Bay Public Library. Kalen found himself watching the entrance, his heart rate elevated. Do you think she'll come? Imani whispered. I don't know, baby. And then at 10:29, the library door opened. Saira walked in. She'd managed to shower somehow. Her hair was still damp but combed neatly. When she saw them, her expression was nervous but hopeful. Imani spotted her and immediately ran across the library. You came. You kept your promise. Saira caught the flying 6-year-old in a hug. Over Imani's head, she met Kalen's gaze. He smiled and mouthed, Thank you. She mouthed back, Thank you. After story time ended, They walked outside into the cool November morning. I thought about your offer all night, Saira said. I want to say yes, but I need you to know something first. I have nothing to offer you except my time and my effort. I don't have references. I don't have professional clothes. I've been surviving on the streets for months, and that changes you. None of us are the same people we were before loss, Kalen said quietly. Change isn't always bad. I don't want to let you down, or worse, let Imani down. Here's what I propose. 1 week trial. You stay in the apartment, help with Imani, and we see if it works. No strings attached. If after a week you want to leave, or if I feel it's not working, we reassess. Fair? Saira looked at him like she couldn't quite believe he was real. That's more than fair. So is that a yes? She smiled, the first real smile he'd seen from her. Yes. It's a yes. Imani whooped. Saira's coming to live with us. Daddy, can we show her the apartment now? The garage apartment wasn't much to look at, but watching Saira walk through it was like watching someone discover treasure. She ran her hand over the small kitchenette counter, tested the faucet, sat on the old futon. It's perfect, she whispered. It needs work, Kalen said honestly. It's perfect, Saira repeated, turning to face him with tears in her eyes. Kalen, you have no idea. I've spent the last 4 months sleeping in doorways, under bridges, in 24-hour McDonald's until they kicked me out. Having a door that locks, a bed that's mine, a bathroom where I don't have to worry. This is perfect. I'll get you some sheets and towels. Imani gets home from school at 3:30. I'll be there, Saira said immediately. I won't let you down. I believe you. The first week was an adjustment. Saira picked up Imani from Bridal Mile Elementary that Monday, and Imani came home chattering about how all her friends thought Saira was so cool. They did homework together. Saira was patient as Imani struggled through reading comprehension. By Wednesday, Saira had made spaghetti for dinner, and Kalen came home to the smell of garlic bread and actual vegetables. You didn't have to cook, he said, genuinely surprised. I wanted to. Besides, I saw the box situation in your pantry. By Friday, Imani's reading homework was done early. The week trial ended, and neither of them brought up Saira leaving. It just worked. 3 months in, something had shifted. The garage apartment now had curtains Saira had sewn. She'd painted the walls a warm cream color. There was a small bookshelf slowly filling with books from the library's free bin. Saira had started volunteering at Rose Bay Library on Saturdays, which led to a part-time paid position. It wasn't much, 12 hours a week, but it was income. She was rebuilding. Imani's reading had improved dramatically. Her teacher had commented on how much more confident she seemed, and Kalen had started coming home to a house that felt lived in again. There was laughter. There were home-cooked meals. There was someone who asked about his day and actually listened. He tried not to think too hard about the way his heart rate picked up when Saira smiled at him, or the way he'd started taking longer showers and actually combing his hair in the morning. This was a business arrangement. That was all. Except it was starting to feel like more, and that terrified him. 6 months after that Saturday morning at the bus stop, Kalen came home to find the backyard transformed. Saira and Imani had planted a garden. Neat rows of starter plants lined the raised beds that Kalen had helped them build. Imani was filthy, dirt smudged across her face. She'd never looked happier. Daddy, look, we planted everything. Kalen looked at Saira, who was equally dirty, her hair pulled back in a messy bun. She looked beautiful. The thought hit him like a physical blow. It's amazing, he managed to say. They ordered pizza that night and ate it on the back porch, watching the sunset. After Imani went to bed, Kalen and Saira sat outside a little longer. Thank you, Kalen said quietly, for the garden, for everything you do for her. She makes it easy. She's an incredible kid, Kalen. But you've helped bring her back to life in ways I couldn't. She was so closed off after her mom died. Now she laughs again. Really laughs. You did that too. You're a good father. They were quiet, and Kalen felt the weight of unsaid things. Saira, I need to tell you something. She turned to look at him, suddenly nervous. Okay. My wife, Lyra, she died during what should have been routine gallbladder surgery. Blood clot to her lung. She went in at 9 a.m. and was gone by noon. I had 45 minutes to say goodbye, and she was already unconscious. Saira reached over and took his hand. I've been frozen since then, Kalen continued, just going through the motions. Work, Imani, survive, repeat. I didn't let myself feel anything because feeling meant hurting, and I couldn't afford to hurt when Imani needed me to be strong. And now? Saira asked softly. Now I'm starting to feel things again, and it scares the hell out of me. Saira squeezed his hand. My mom used to tell me that grief isn't something you get over. It's something you learn to carry differently. The weight never really changes, but you get stronger. Strong enough to hold the grief and still have room for other things. Joy, hope, maybe even love again someday. Kalen looked at her. I think you're right. They sat there holding hands as the stars came out. By 9 months, anyone looking at them would have assumed they were already a family. Saira was working 20 hours a week at the library now, and she'd enrolled in online courses to finish her teaching certification. Imani was thriving. Her second-grade teacher had said her daughter was one of the top readers in the class. They'd become a unit. Sunday pancakes, Wednesday movie nights, Saturday farmers' market trips. Kalen and Saira hadn't talked again about the feelings growing between them. They danced around it, maintaining boundaries. But the boundaries were getting harder to maintain. It was October again, 1 year since that Saturday at the bus stop, when everything changed. After a school harvest festival, as they walked home, Imani between them holding both their hands, she looked up. Are you guys going to get married? Kalen nearly tripped. Saira's face flushed bright red. Imani, that's not... Kalen started. Why not? Imani interrupted. You like each other, I can tell, and we're already a family, so why not make it official? It's more complicated than that, sweetheart, Saira said gently. Why? Because you think I won't be okay with it? Imani stopped walking. I miss Mommy every day. I'll always miss her. But she's not coming back. And I think she'd want Daddy to be happy again. And I think she'd want me to have someone like you, Saira. Kalen felt tears prickling his eyes. I want you to get married, Imani said firmly. I've been wishing for it every night on the first star. She skipped ahead, leaving Kalen and Saira standing there stunned. Well, Saira said after a long moment. That was subtle. Kalen laughed. She gets her lack of subtlety from me too, apparently. They started walking again, slower now. Kalen, Saira said softly. What do you want? He stopped and turned to face her fully. Honestly, I want to stop pretending this is just a business arrangement. I want to stop lying to myself about what I feel when you smile at me. I want to kiss you. I've wanted to kiss you for months. Saira's eyes were shining. Then why haven't you? Because I'm terrified. Because letting myself love someone again means risking the kind of loss that nearly destroyed me the first time. Saira stepped forward and kissed him. It was soft and tentative and perfect. When they broke apart, both were crying. I'm terrified too, Saira whispered. But Kalen, I think I'm more scared of never taking the risk at all. I'm not easy to love. I work too much. I have a daughter who will always come first. I know all that, Saira interrupted. I've lived with you for a year. I've seen you exhausted and frustrated and worried, and I've also seen you be the most devoted father I've ever known. I've seen you, Kalen, all of you, and I love what I see. He kissed her again, longer this time. When they finally made it home, Imani was waiting on the porch with a knowing smile. Did you kiss? Saira laughed. Yes, we kissed. Imani threw her hands in the air, Finally. 1 year became 2 years. The garage apartment became less used as Saira spent more nights in the main house, until eventually Kalen asked if she wanted to just move her things in officially. "Are you sure?" she'd asked. "I've never been more sure of anything." Saira got her teaching certification and started working as a substitute teacher. The library kept her on for Saturday programs. Imani called her Saira full-time now, and sometimes, in moments of pure joy, she'd slip and call her mom. Saira never corrected her. Kalen proposed on a Saturday morning at Northmere Grove Market, right there by the apple stand. He got down on one knee while Imani bounced excitedly beside him. "You taught us how to pick the good ones," he said, holding out a ring. "And Saira, you're the best one. Will you marry me?" She said yes through tears. They got married 6 months later in a small ceremony with close family and friends. Imani was the flower girl. Taran, Kalen's brother, was best man and gave a speech about how grateful he was that Kalen had been wrong when he said he'd never love again. Saira's vows included a line that made everyone cry. "A year and a half ago, I was sitting on a bench with nothing left but grief, and a little girl with a heart too big for the world asked if she could hug me. That hug saved my life. So did her father. You both remind me every day that the world is still full of kindness, still full of second chances, still full of love." As they danced at the reception, Saira's head on Kalen's shoulder, Imani squeezed between them. Kalen whispered, "I can't believe you're my wife." Saira whispered back, "Believe it. You're stuck with me now." Best decision I ever made. Second best, actually. First was listening to my daughter when she wanted to hug a stranger. Imani looked up at both of them. "See? I told you my hugs were magic." And you know what? She was right. Kalen and Saira didn't just build a life together, they built a home. A real home full of laughter and gardens and bedtime stories and Saturday morning pancakes. The kind of home where grief has a place at the table, but so does joy. Where loss is acknowledged, but hope gets the final word. Imani is 9 now, and she still tells the story of how she met her mom at a bus stop. "I just knew she needed a hug," she says, "and hugs fix almost everything." If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who needs to hear it. We all know someone who's struggling, someone who's lost, someone who just needs to be reminded they're not alone. Be that reminder. Be that person who stops and notices. And if you're the person sitting on that bench right now, wondering if anyone sees you, I promise someone does. Hold on. Your Imani might be right around the corner. Your second chance is coming.